Hello and welcome back to Warcraft News. So today, we've actually got a pretty special episode. Blizzard have announced a whole bunch of their planned changes for patch 6.1 and just general things that they want to do in the new year. Now, it's a little bit light on the specific details, but they basically told us broadly what they are wanting to implement. Changes include adding a EVE Online Plex style system, which would allow you to buy gold and then exchange gold for game time, which is pretty interesting. Some stuff about the legendary quest, flight point improvements, in-game tweeting functionality, which personally as a Twitter user I think is pretty nifty. Also lots of tweaks to the Garrison, an improved UI for arena spectating, a whole bunch of fixes and just queue time improvements and things like that for Ashran, and then also the return of heirlooms to the game. So first of all, it's time to talk about this EVE Online Plex style system. Now first of all, I'll just explain what it is, because I'm sure there's some people who are not really aware of it. So in EVE Online, you can get your in-game subscription via two manners. The first one is just a regular kind of credit card bill, a bit like your World of Warcraft subscription. But the other one is through a thing called a pilot license extension, which is commonly referred to as a Plex. Now, one of these Plexes can be purchased from, let's just say, the equivalent of the in-game auction house, and when you use that item, it will give you 30 days of game time. Now, you can buy a Plex from two different manners. You can first just spend in-game currency, or you can just buy one from the EVE website for, let's just say, $20. Now, once you buy a Plex, you're able to do two things with it. You can either use it and get some game time, or you can put it up for sale. That's essentially what Blizzard are going to do. Their plan is to introduce tokens, and these tokens could be purchased from the Blizzard store. They would then go to your character, and you would be able to use those tokens for one of two things. You could either give yourself some game time, or you could sell them on the auction house. This is essentially a way of Blizzard legally selling gold. I suppose gold selling is a bit of a problem. I don't think it's as big of a problem as it is now than it was in the past, but certainly I think this is a very interesting system for World of Warcraft. It's definitely got some benefits, maybe one or two drawbacks, but really we'll just have to wait and see as to how it will pan out in the game. That said though, there's definitely a lot of discussion to be had. So first of all, the obvious benefit of this is that one would be able to get a lot of gold if you previously didn't have that much gold. So if you're sitting around at 1k and you want to put some of your personal, real life currency into World of Warcraft, you'll then be able to get an item that you can sell, and you'll probably be able to sell it for quite a lot of money. I'd imagine that a full month of game time will equate to quite a lot of in-game gold. And then this, of course, means that if you're someone who is really good at making gold, you will be able to basically just, fund your whole game, basically. So if you're really, really good at the auction house or whatever, you'll be able to play WoW for free, which I think is pretty cool. Another benefit of this that I think a lot of people wouldn't really see or even just realize is that a lot of people would see this system and think, oh wow, I could play World of Warcraft for free. Maybe it'll take me a few months to earn that much gold, but hey, I'll start playing now with the goal of playing free being a later on thing. And then, of course, that person would never reach the stage where they could play for free via their in-game gold making. So it's a bit of a carrot in terms of getting people into the game. That even just the dream of, or illusion of being able to play for free, I think would certainly be quite appealing to a lot of people. Then, of course, those who are struggling with money will be able to solve that, which I think is fine, I understand that it's, for a lot of people, just gold making isn't a fun element of the game. Maybe they don't know how to do it, or they just don't enjoy doing it, and absolutely fair enough, so this is going to be a way to circumvent that. Really, there's a lot of benefits here for lots of different players, and I think one extremely interesting thing that this does to the economy of any game with a system like this is it puts a real-world dollar value on in-game items. And also the in-game item thing is a bit of an issue. So one would be able to just buy a whole bunch of these, sell them, and then buy BOE items. I think that's, just with the way that World of Warcraft's endgame works, is a little bit problematic. You see, EVE Online is a sandbox. It's a very different game to World of Warcraft, and in EVE you couldn't just buy the best ship and then go out and dominate everyone. And this is just because of the way that the in-game skill system and various other elements work. Now in World of Warcraft, as long as you've got half a brain, you could just buy a set of extremely powerful BOE, gear and just wreck people. So there is quite a difference there. And of course, another thing which actually does concern me quite a lot is that mythic gear appears in the black market auction house. This means that people who are able to just, drop a lot of money could instantly get mythic gear from the black market auction house. Honestly, I think if this system was to be implemented, then they should just flat out remove gear from the BMAH. I know that maybe would tick off some people who just want to use the black market auction house regularly, but I just don't like the incentive. There's just that sort of power incentive being there. It's going to be very strange how this will affect endgame rating, especially at the start of the expansion. I heard a lot of complaining, and I think some valid complaining as well, from high-end raiders who maybe weren't massive gold makers, who were saying that just with the overall landscape of stats and gear and drops and BOEs in Warlords of Draenor, that really the start of the expansion did favour people with a lot of money. Now, generally that wasn't much of an issue because, well, not that many people had a lot of money, whereas now I think that with a system like this, it could just have a strange effect on the economy. Now, of course, one thing that you've got to remember is that this is a gold sink for players that have a crap ton of money. So I suppose in a way it would definitely aid with the redistribution of in-game gold, which again is interesting. I suppose a lot of my thoughts on this come down to, that's interesting. It's the sort of thing where we're just going to have to see how it pans out in the game, honestly. It's, I don't think WildStar really got big enough for its cred system to be hyper interesting to watch. I think that with World of Warcraft being such a monolithic game with so many people playing it, that we're definitely going to see how this system works, and if there are any problems, I'm sure they will appear in a rather massive and very noticeable fashion. I suppose if this was to really bork up the in-game economy, then they could just remove the items from sale, and while it may take, say, a few patches for the item, or, from that effect to kind of disappear, well, it's still, it's an out, right? This isn't some sort of be-all, end-all thing. Right now, it seems like they're just playing around with the idea. I do think it's an experiment that's going to be worth having, and I'm very, very keen to see what the gold value of a month of subscription is. Of course, right now, we're used to a month of a WoW subscription being about $15, £10. In EVE, the Plex is slightly more expensive than a month subscription, so I'd imagine that this, in-game token or whatever the hell Blizzard are going to do will be a little bit more expensive per month to buy off their store than an actual just regular subscription, which of course does make a lot of sense. So maybe you'll be, what, $20? Let's just say $20. So how much gold will that end up equating to? Well, really, with the state of the current Warlords of Draenor economy, I don't know. Inflation has been sort of insane, and we'll just have to wait and see how it turns out. Oh, and just one last very important point. This system would not be adding new gold to the in-game economy. As I said earlier, it would just be moving gold from the rich players to the less in-game rich players who purchase these tokens. So I don't think it's really going to do much for inflation. However, it certainly might encourage people to try to make gold a little bit more, and that would include making gold via sources that do generate in-game gold. For an example, just getting boss kills in, say, Cataclysm 25 Heroics, or something like that. Anyway, time to move on to the other topics. First of all, they mentioned their plans for the legendary quest, so there will be a new step to the quest which will lead us into Blackrock Foundry. The actual Blackrock Foundry raid will be happening sometime in February, and they'll give us specific details when we're a little bit closer to that date. Now, they said that they will be also giving us a legendary follower, with some, quote, suitable legendary abilities. Sounds pretty cool, and I'm certainly interested to see what a legendary follower would entail. Next up, they talked a little bit about a very cool system, actually. They're planning on testing out some in-game Twitter integration that would allow you to do things like, share an achievement or screenshots or various things like that. I actually think that's extremely cool, and I know that many people will just cynically say, oh, this Twitter and Facebook generation, what a pack of wankers. Yeah, I suppose fair enough. It may get a little bit spammy from time to time, but still, I think it's a decent enough feature, and certainly, if you think of it from a PR perspective, and just getting eyeballs onto World of Warcraft, the more tweets the merrier. It will help Blizzard for many sort of SEO-related things, and of course, if it includes hashtags, then I'd imagine that the World of Warcraft hashtag will be trending quite high, which, again, all sort of ties into Twitter marketing. I suppose by thinking of Twitter marketing immediately, I'm taking a bit of a cynical approach to it, but stuff like that's kind of the first thought that pops into my head. Of course, if you do use Twitter, it will be very convenient, and while I'm thinking cynically, I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to plug my own Twitter, which you can find in the description. Yeah. Okay, well, with Twitter covered, it's time to talk about flight point improvements. fantastic actually. They are basically just going to be fixing up some flight points. I don't really know exactly how. Currently, the flight points are all handcrafted from place to place, which is why I think we see so many problems. It would be really nice if they would come up with some sort of system that would just, sort of procedurally generate some sort of, like, I don't know, just use pathfinding or something to make a sensible way to get you from place A to place B. I'm sure that they could algorithmically solve that problem. I mean, if you think about it, they've got access to a height map of Draenor, so they could just use that to ensure that the mount doesn't fly through things, and then just path it around various things. And I honestly think they could just do it so it would just generate a path whenever you use it that's nice and quick, and a little bit more as the crow flies. The next thing they talked about was garrisons, and really, while there aren't many specific things, they said that there will be lots of tweaks, improvements, and additions on the way. They said that they've got some very large additions later on, which is more post-patch 6.1, but they also do have lots of stuff for patch 6.1. This includes a daily visitor to your garrison, which will set a task for you and your friends, which will apparently be rewarding. This is an attempt to make visiting your friends' garrisons a little bit more rewarding. I think that's definitely cool, and the more functionality the merrier, especially functionality that's based off our character actually doing something in the world. One of my larger criticisms of the Garrison is that a lot of it's menu-based, so getting more just actual quest content, I think, is definitely nice. They also said that they will give us some new ways to spend resources, some new missions, and then also some new follower-changing items, and, I think this is very exciting, a harder tier of Garrison invasions. Hopefully that would come with a better chance of nice loot, or perhaps just more Apexis crystals than 100, because I don't think that your weekly Garrison invasion gives you anywhere near a decent amount of Apexis crystals. It should at least be 1,000, I mean, come on. It's a lot of work. Anyway, right, let's move on to the other things. So they are working on an improved UI for arena spectating. This is mainly aimed at helping play around tournaments. I think this is very cool, actually. World of Warcraft tournaments are, in my opinion, completely unwatchable if there's not a good UI, so it does make community-ran tournaments a kind of tricky thing to do. Definitely this will be nice to see. I'm not much into watching World of Warcraft PvP, unless I'm actually in the mood where I'm playing PvP. I don't think it makes a great spectator sport, because so much of what you see is very much based on who has got a certain, dot or stun or effect or diminishing return, etc. It's all very nitty-gritty. It's not like, say, StarCraft, where you can just see, oh look, those guys are attacking those guys, or Counter-Strike, where you can see that someone just shot someone else in the head, therefore they're dead. World of Warcraft's, I think, just got a lot more underlying systems that do make it inherently quite hard to watch as a spectator sport, unless you're very familiar with the game and its systems. Next, they talked a little bit about the Heirloom tab. So this is going to come with a sort of revamp to how heirlooms are being done. Essentially, one of the reasons why they removed it is because they were planning on doing the tab, and also they wanted to fix up stats. So the way that the heirlooms themselves work is actually going to be a little bit different. Initially, you're able to purchase them, and they will be good up to level 60. That unlocks them in an heirloom tab across all of your characters. Beyond that, though, you'll be able to upgrade the level of your heirlooms. I think level 2 is up to level 90, and level 3 is up to level 100 in terms of their effectiveness, and they will be upgraded via tokens that are obtained via doing various bits of content. No specifics, but that's roughly what they're going for with the heirloom system. I like that this will involve just unifying all the items to a 3 upgrade tier system. I think that's a bit cleaner than the previous one that they had going, and it's definitely nice to see that they're back. It's also great that we'll have heirlooms working up to level 100, though unfortunately for me, I think I'll probably have most of the characters that I wanted 100 anyway by the time that comes out. I mean, I've already got 4 level 100s, and I'm planning on getting another 4 or 5 over the Christmas break. Anyway, it's also time to talk about Ashran. So they said that Ashran will continue to see some improvements, especially in regards to realm pairing, and then also some technical fixes, with queues being one of their main targets. I think that's extremely important, because I know in some realms the queues for Ashran are truly ludicrous. They also have some larger improvements that are really just planned post patch 6.1. I think in Ashran one of the major problems is that it's balanced in such a way that it's not very fun when the actual sides are balanced. If you've got an equal amount of Alliance and Horde, all that they do is meat grinder each other, and nobody actually kills anything, nobody gets a cool reward, and that's just kind of boring. I think it should be designed in a more fun way. And other than that, I mean, sure, you can go and do the bonus objectives and the little event thingies, but you do the bonus objectives once a day, and the events are pretty rare in terms of their spawning. Certainly Ashran does need a lot of work, both in terms of its design issues and also its implementation issues. Anyway, that's it for the news that they talked about for patch 6.1 and beyond. It sounds very interesting to me. I can't wait to get onto the PTR, and when that does happen, I'll be bringing you loads of videos showing off all these new systems, a little bit like what I did with patch 5.4, so that certainly will be a lot of fun. I'm interested though, like there's a lot of cool stuff here, especially with the heirloom tab. I think that's nice. Also with the garrisons, I'm very happy to have more ways to spend resources, because I've got like 6,000 on my main character, because I've got scavenger followers and nothing to do with them. It'll definitely be cool to see what we can spend those with. And also, of course, new missions and new etc. is all good. Generally, though, it just seems like this is one of those content patches that, rather than adding massive, crazy new features, it will more just be adding a few little systems and then a little bit more content to the world. Of course, what they didn't talk about, though, is the main new bit of world content. So, for an example, the Lion's Landing equivalent that this patch will have. So we don't know what that is, but I'm assuming we'll find out closer to the time. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.